normal people become terrified of criminals.
Shots were just fired. Police just came out and told us, and we're headed there right now.
They become terrified of their own government.
This is a really, really big story from earlier today. Israel demands action after journalists reportedly joined Hamas massacre. AP, CNN, Reuters, and the New York Times. They had reporters. This is an investigative. I'm sorry. This is the. Here we go. Honest Reporting is I guess it's an NGO that it pushes back on articles that it says are posting fake news about Israel, and they have some photos taken by Hassan Eslaya at the conflict, and there are serious questions any editor should have asked about these photos. Excuse me, good sir, reporter that we are paying. How did you get this photo? Hamas is allowing you to film their operations? How did you know to film in these locations? Were you with Hamas? What did they tell you? Now, there's real questions. Would we rather have the photos or not? My concern is if these quote unquote reporters are embedded with Hamas, there's a photo. They actually have a photo of one of the guys with one of the Hamas leaders.
Holy crap.
Yeah, they look like friends. And so it would seem the images and photos that came out were intentionally released by Hamas to control the narrative. And if these news organizations paid these individuals, they were directly funding Hamas.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised because these are the same corporate press people who are funding BLM and basically embedded with them and helping burn down cities.
And they have young progressives on staff who would think this is justified.
Right.
I mean, we saw this in the U.S. There's no reason to think it's not happening in the newsrooms everywhere.
When I saw this story today, I thought of, I forget his full name, but I think the last name was Sullivan. And he was the guy at J6 who was selling his footage from inside the Capitol. And it was on CNN. Yeah, he made a bunch of money. And then the day after,
grand?
something like that.
50, 55, I think.
He's on video waving the knife, instigating literal bad stuff, So I see, this is just the next step for these people. This is what they do. But I would like to know who they are, to what degree did they partake in this? I do want to see the photos, and then I want to be able to judge for myself. But are they freelancers? Did they know the publication beforehand? Do we know that?
Are they retainer freelancers?
Right.
Did the New York Times, AP, CNN, as organizations know the attack was going to happen? I got to be honest. I think it's entirely possible.
Totally think
They're claiming they don't. They're saying we had no idea this was going to happen. Well, they have to say that. But look, what does it mean for an organization to say we didn't know? Does that mean an editor didn't know? It's entirely possible one of these guys contacted their buyer or whatever and said, look, there's going to be a major military action on the 7th. I can get you the photos. Here's how much I want. Negotiated. The question that needs to be asked, the deeper investigation, is how quickly were these photos released? Because if they were released instantly, that means a pre-existing relationship was in play, and these guys are likely on some kind of retainer or payroll, or at the very least sent an email saying, check out these photos, do you want to buy them? And they immediately just said yes without question. Here's a photo. Palestinian militants from Gaza Strip run the gate of Kibbutz Kfar Aza on Saturday. Run by the gate. So is this a photo of them appearing to try and get in? Could this reporter have warned someone they were about to go and kill a bunch of civilians? Is it the duty of the reporter to do so? I mean, these are serious moral questions.
Yes.
And unless he's ideologically aligned with Hamas, in which case he is a propaganda mouthpiece of Hamas that is being paid by the American corporate press.
It's one thing to embed yourself with a thing and report on it, but it's another thing ethically, you must say something if you know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how embedded you are. That's ridiculous. But when that picture of him kissing, the kissing picture, is that from
he's being kissed
October
by
6th? When is that picture even from? That it matters. It could be from years ago. But
it
don't
only
know.
matters because Hamas has spent a lot of time trying to embed themselves in the good graces of progressives in America. I mean, what was the line from, I think it was a 2019 interview where he was saying, equating basically the Hamas and their actions to BLM and George Floyd, right? And he used those words because he knows that there is an emotional reaction on the American left. This is a longstanding goal of Hamas, in my observational understanding of it, that they want the American left journalism class to be sympathetic to them.
Totally.
And so it wouldn't be surprising me if a journalist has a positive relationship with both a Western outlet and Hamas. And Hamas was like, yeah, come here, let's do it. And I don't know if that journalist is objective enough to understand what they are consenting to or what they're enabling with their actions.
What media outlet was it that said they were bombed by Israel years ago, but it turns out they were in the headquarters of Hamas that time? Do you remember that story?
There was a media center.
Right.
That it was claimed this is just where reporters are, and then it came out that Hamas used a sub-level for weapons and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do.
Yeah, and we all do it. Like, this country's got bad press or working with our bad agents all the time. You know,
I do think it's funny because, like, the U.S. has blown up and killed a bunch of people at weddings in Pakistan and things like that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, come on. So, you know, I just can't stand the hypocrisy. More importantly, I mean, look, these corporate news organizations, they're evil. Mm-hmm. They are big, faceless corporations. The only thing that editor was thinking was, I can't get in trouble, but we get these photos out. It's big. How much do you want? They didn't even stop to say, how did you get these photos? Because look, man, if it turns out that you're working with these guys, we can't give you any money for this. Mm-hmm. It's even worse than if he says, okay, you can take them for free. Mm-hmm. Because that means you are putting out the propaganda they want released. And I think, you know, a lot of people would say, why would they want that released showing the horrible things they're doing? You know, they filmed themselves doing horrible things. Mm-hmm. They published this footage. Yeah. They wanted to destroy the Abraham Accords and shift the negotiating power back to Palestine by saying, hey, look, we're crazy. And Biden gave them $100 million.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. I would recommend anyone who cares about what's going on behind the scenes at corporate media places to watch the Best Movie Network. And it goes through...
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
That's it, you know, and how they exploit violence, madness, you know, and what they do for the clicks, for the views. It's one of my favorite movies, one of the best written movies with the best dialogue ever. But I think that movie, even though it came out in probably the 70s or 80s, it is just as relevant today as it was then.
Yeah, I think it's unsurprising that this is happening. I am curious what the response would be from AP or Reuters, whoever put out the photos, because ultimately they control the news. So even if they put out a statement, they can bury it as fast as anything else.
They did. CNN fired the guy.
Did they say what capacity he worked with them?
Well, let's read this from the Messenger. They say CNN and other organizations, blah, 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 blah. And let's see. In a statement posted at X, the Israeli Prime Minister said this. Okay, come on. CNN told Israeli outlet Ynet that it had severed ties with Eslaya in the wake of the Honest Reporting investigation, saying, we are aware of the article and photo concerning Hassan Eslaya, a freelance photojournalist who has worked with a number of international and Israeli outlets. CNN wrote in a statement, oh yeah. While we have not at this time found reason to doubt the journalistic accuracy of the work he's done for us, we have decided to suspend all ties with him, the network added. That kind of sounds like they're saying, holy crap, we're in trouble. Cut ties with him and dismiss it. Yeah. So because if it really was a nothing, they would say, look, it's a freelancer we've worked with in the past. We have no comment. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking, is that this guy is probably not like a direct employee of CNN. It's probably not that. So he's a freelancer. So are the news companies just the middleman? And then maybe someone's calling and saying, hey, we got someone over there, right? Maybe
doesn't matter because you can't legally give material support to a terrorist organization. So the questions that are rising with this is, look, this is not an instance where photos emerged of someone in the music festival who had been there and said, look, I was here in Israel, I was filming. This is a guy who's Palestinian in Gaza who has photos from inside Israel, meaning he breached the barriers he's with the guy. Mm-hmm. The bigger question is, did these media organizations pay Hamas for the propaganda material Hamas wanted released?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a big problem. I think this ethically is just a giant nightmare, you know? And it reminds me of this weird story about there's this journalist from back in the day who was in the new journalism movement, wrote a lot of great stories. And then in his old years, he wrote a story about a guy with a motel who was a voyeur looking at the people who were in his hotel rooms. And then he embedded himself with that person. And like me reading that, I'm like, ethically, you should be warning everybody about this. But instead, he's like cozying up to this guy looking through the peepholes. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
The AP claims the first pictures they received show they were taken more than an hour after the attacks began. No AP staff were at the border at the time of the attacks, nor did any AP staffer cross the border at that time. That does not mean this guy was not there. And people are posting a video showing one of these reporters holding a grenade or something like this. That's what's being reported on X. And Israel is saying these journalists are going to be treated as terrorists. That's crazy. Isaiah now says he fears for his life. Those who stood, quote, as idle bystanders while children were slaughtered are no different than terrorists and should be treated as such. That's crazy, man. See, this is where it gets interesting. I don't if this guy's a legitimate journalist and he's not with Hamas, do we want these photos? We want to see what they're doing.
Yes.
That's
Unfortunately,
tough.
but yes.
But the question is he actually aligned with them, and are news organizations paying a guy and providing material support to the propaganda wing of Hamas?
That's the problem.
I got to be honest. I don't think anyone operates in Gaza without the approval of Hamas. I don't think this guy could be a journalist without them. Like a Palestinian journalist in Gaza, they know who he is. They have to. He's selling photos to the AP being played internationally. There's no circumstance in my mind where Hamas is like, nah, you're fine. Do whatever you want. No, they probably said, here's what we expect from you, and here's what you have to do. And he says, you got it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he's not CNN's guy, right? This guy does work for someone. Someone is paying his bills to be there, live there, and exist there. And that's the question I want to have answered. Is this guy part of Hamas? Is he part of intelligence agency? Like, how do you get training to hang out with Hamas and not get shot, right? You have to be buddy-buddy. This is the questions
A picture of him getting kissed. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Right there.
That's crazy.
And he's smiling, and he's taking the selfie.
Yeah.
So it's not like they staged the photo. He was like, hey, I'm going to get a picture with me and this guy who's kissing me. That's crazy.
I mean, but if he's Palestinian, I would be curious to hear what his personal view on Hamas is anyways, right? I mean, people in Palestine have a long and complicated relationship with Hamas because Hamas used to provide social services. I mean, there was Hamas pre what we know it is today. It's not that I'm justifying Hamas's existence, but as a Palestinian journalist, maybe you view it differently. I don't know.
Or maybe if he truly was embedded and he truly is an investigative journalist, that's the role he was playing. You know, or maybe that's the story he's going to tell you. Either way, it's ridiculous.
But if he is
attacks.
Palestinian,
right,
then he's subject to Hamas's whims.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this is propaganda.
Yeah.
For them.
Well, and also, like, if he's just like, I'm a nice journalist and I want to do a good job, and Hamas, maybe I take your picture, and they know that he's ultimately going to give the photos to CNN or to any kind of Western outlet, there's a chance that they're like, yes, of course, we'll treat you really nicely. Come on in. Because, again, they ultimately, you know, there's this question of material support. So Hamas may not be paying him, but they do want him to circulate images of them. Hamas has not been quiet about the fact that they want public attention.
Imagine what would have happened if Hamas didn't film any of what happened on October 7th.
Right.
There would be limited video from security cameras and dash cams, and some people film stuff, but a lot of the most gruesome stuff we've seen, they filmed themselves, like killing civilians in cars and stuff like that.
Right.
They wanted people to see what they were doing.
Yeah, for sure.
That's messed up, man.
Which is why they're palling around with the press as well.
Or is the press... Look, man, when you go to these protests on the far left, these quote-unquote journalists wearing press badges, they're activists, they're Antifa.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But you'd also have to look at, like, TikTok, right? Like, TikTok has tons of video footage that's coming out on the ground in Palestine right now of people in Palestine saying, you know, Israel is making us walk to the southern part of the state, or, you know, there is a counter effort. And so Hamas saying, and this is just off the cuff my opinion about it, but like Hamas saying, yes, we are willing to show what we're doing, kind of tells the citizens, yes, you should also be recording and trying to distribute what's happening here as much as possible. And it makes the narrative more complicated, which is ultimately what Hamas really wants.
Yeah. And I just also want to stress that every government is doing this at the same time to varying degrees, right? But like Gal Gadot's about to show some film for the IDF.
A fight broke out. You saw that?
No.
Yeah, she had a screening and a fight
Was she
broke out outside.
dressed up as Wonder Woman, or?
She wasn't at the fight, but a fight broke out outside.
That's
the
crazy.
1984 outfit. Not as good.
Yeah, not as good, not as good. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.